Hello, good evening, everyone, or good day, everyone. Please, if you can hear me, kindly send a thumbs up so I'll be sure you can hear me. Thank you. So, welcome to today's session, Beyond International Relations, that's beyond career, beyond diplomacy, beyond expectation. So, from whichever country you're joining, Nigeria, India, Ghana, you're welcome. Welcome to this series. This series is very special to me because it's a series I wish somebody started when I was still studying. So, one of the major series why this one of the major reasons why this series was created is to help students, graduates, and young professionals see international relations beyond diplomacy. Because once you're studying the course or once you're studying international relations, one thing that comes to your mind is, I want to become a diplomat or I want to become an ambassador, but nobody tells you the how to of this career. So one of the major goals of this session is to help you see the multifaceted aspect of international relations and other career paths you can actually go into aside diplomacy. So it's not like diplomacy is not a thing, but diplomacy is like the end result of everything you're going to be doing, not most times the starting point. One of the way in which our brain or our mind is wired is that we study international relations. Secondly, we work in international institutions. Then the third aspect of this is we become diplomats. But most of the time, it doesn't work this way. You notice that sometimes people that are working in these institutions you love to work in, or people that are doing the things you love to do, when you ask them or when you get the opportunity to relate with them on a personal level, you realize that they are not even international relations students, neither are they international relations graduates. Then all of a sudden you feel scammed. You feel like this was not what you were told, which is very fine and I understand. But one of the things is international relations students, most of us tend to limit our mindset to the fact that we can only work in the United Nations. And aside working in the United Nations, we feel like there is no other career path for us. But today, we're going to explore the different niche that are available for international relations students, the skills that you need to excel in this niche, and how you can go about it before the end result of being a diplomat. So most of the time, there is always a large disconnect or a large gap between what you're studying in school, that is your degree, and the job opportunities or the career opportunities that are available for you. So the aim of this session is for you to have a clear guide, a clear orientation of the other career paths that are available for international relations students, to know the kind of skills you need to build to excel in this path before heading to the big institution which we all want to be, which is the United Nations. So without wasting much of our time, welcome once again to this class. My name is Ikpa Ochanya and I'm a policy and development analyst and enthusiast, but I was a graduate of international relations before I realized that there were different niches. So in order not to waste our time, the first niche we're going to be exploring today is international development. This is one of the big aspects of international relations. And the fact is that most of us are already in this niche. Most of us are already doing the job, but we don't even know that it is a niche on its own. So these are the things we'll be exploring. I'm going to share my screen now so we can go together. So if you can see my screen, please let me know by sending a thumbs up. Can you see my screen? Yeah, thank you. So we're going to be exploring what international development is, who can work in this niche, what skill do you need to excel in this niche, and the career roles that are available in this niche. Now, what is international development? International development is actually a niche or a sector that focuses on improving the standard or the living condition of people in one fragile communities, 2, low-income communities, or we can say transitioning or developing communities. These are like countries or communities that have not gotten their stand. There are still villages that suffer from not having water. There are still villages that suffer from not having electricity. So the work of international development majorly is to increase the standard of living of these people. So when we're looking at it from this aspect, these people actually deal with real world problems. They try to provide solutions to real world problems, because not having water in a community is a real problem, because water is essential for everybody to survive. Not having electricity is a real world problem. So most of the people that are in this niche, international development, go into rural communities or fragile communities to look for solutions to real world problems. And most of the time, they are done through projects. These projects are most times funded by international organizations. So they are like NGOs or organizations that get funding from bigger organizations or from bigger partners or countries to be able to implement projects in these communities. Now, there are some characteristics that naturally just fit into this particular kind of niche or this particular kind of role, because you have some characteristics and you feel like, okay, I can do this. So first off, if you're a kind of person that is people oriented and love working with communities, this niche is actually for you. Look at it from this angle. For people that do international development, most of the time they are always on the field, because you can't work with a community that you don't know. You can't work with a community that you don't understand their needs. So most of the time, people that do international development or people that are in this niche of international development actually have to go to the communities, look for the problem, see how they can provide solutions, and provide the solutions. And most of the time, when they are providing the solution, they have to stay in that community. So let's imagine a case scenario. An American or a German goes to an African country, maybe in Benin Republic, it goes to a community there, and only language they speak in this community is French. Most people in this community understand French, and just few people understand English. How do they relate if you are not a people oriented kind of person, or you are the kind of person when you relate with foreign people, or when you relate with people that you're not used to, you feel irritated, you can't actually be in this niche. You need to be people centered and community oriented. You need to be able to relate with people even if you are not used to them. Be the type of person that can adapt easily. You understand their culture, you understand their style, and you'll be able to work with them. 2, if you are in this niche, you need to be a kind of person that care about sustainability a lot, because when you're in this niche, the solutions you're providing to these communities are not actually short-term solutions. You're looking for long-term solutions. For instance, you go into a community where there is no water. You don't just look for people that will get water from another community and fetch and bring to them. No, you look for a long-lasting solution, like digging a borehole, digging a well, and look for a way to rationalize it between these communities. That's the work of international development. 3, you must be that is analytically minded, because most of the time there are a lot of analytics that go on in international development that you don't know. For instance, if it's a training program, when you go to a community that have a lot of unemployed youth, if it's a training program you want to carry out, you need to be analytical in the sense that how many people are we training, how many workshops do we need to do, and stuff like that. These are the kind of people that can actually work in international development niche. And you also need to be a kind of person that loves to explore, because when you go into the community, the problem might not just be a single stuff. It might be about poverty, it might be about youth unemployment, it might be about food insecurity. So you need to be open-minded and love to explore. But one thing that will make you be able to explore these different aspects in this particular niche are the skills you build, because the skills you build in international development are transferable from project to project. Now we'll be going right into the skills you need to excel in this niche. Now, for international development, one of the key skills that you need to learn as an international relations student, because most of the time when you're in school, the skill that most international relations students graduate with, except from the people that go extra mile to learn a skill, is 1, research, because you have a lot of assignments going on. 2, presentation skill, because most of the time when you're in school, you do a lot of assignments which you need to present in front of your lecturer or in front of your class. So these are the 2 skills you graduate with unknowingly. But for you to be in international development, One of the skill you need to understand is project management. Project management is an essential skill because in international development, anything you're doing in a community is called a project. And you need to measure the timeline. When is this project starting? When is this project ending? Who is doing this and who is doing what? So if you love this niche, or if you feel like this niche actually resonates with you, project management is one skill you should consider. Two, you should consider learning data analysis and monitoring and evaluation. Monitoring and evaluation and data analysis kind of go hand in hand because for monitoring and evaluation, when the project is going on, there is a timeline. So there is somebody or an individual that monitors each activity and how it's going. Okay, we said the project manager said we need to do this time. There is somebody monitoring it. This is what I'm supposed to do. Now, okay, the project is going well. Yeah, we are following the timeline. That's for monitoring. Then for evaluation, after everything has been done, when monitoring said so activities were held, evaluation measures it and said, okay, for instance, you have a workshop of unemployed youth and you train them in different skills. Monitoring will tell you we trained 30 people during the workshop, but evaluation will tell you after the workshop 25 people were able to use this skill to get new jobs and become employable. So this skill is very important, and for you to be able to understand monitoring and evaluation, you need to understand data analysis. That is, you need to know how to draw dashboards to be able to give the correct information because you're dealing with numbers of people in the community. So data analysis is also a very important skill alongside monitoring and evaluation. Another very important skill in international development is communication skill. And when you're talking about communication skill, I know we are good at presentation, I know we are good at talking, but it is far more than this. Communicating the impact that has been made to people that provide the funding for this project is very important, and communicating it to the general public is very important. So if you are thinking of learning a communication skill, one of the things you should explore is one, graphic design. You should know how to come out with good graphics, infographics for banners, for social media updates and so on. You should be good in writing of articles, not just any article that comes from the report that is gotten from these communities where these projects were implemented. You say, okay, we did this. These were how many people we were able to impact. This was what changed after our project. Like, you're communicating the impact of what you've done to the general public and to the donors that is provided the funding for that project. In order for them to provide funding another time, you need to communicate the impact correctly. So if you're thinking of international development, the top skill I would advise anyone to learn is one, project management. Two, data analysis and monitoring and evaluation. They kind of work hand in hand. Then three, I'll advise you to learn communication skill. Then another skill that can be added, you don't need to learn everything, you just need to be good at one, which you just follow. Another skill that's very important is proposal writing. Just like I said before, most of the time the funding for this project come from international organizations or different countries that are willing to fund low-income countries. So to get funding from them, you need to write a proposal. I know a lot of international relations graduates or students know how to write, but now you need to learn how to write a proposal, like asking for money, what your project will do with this money, and the impacts that your project will provide if this money is given to you. So writing of grants and proposal is very important. So these are the top 4 skills for international development. 1, project management. 2, monitoring and evaluation and data analysis. 3, we have communications. 4, we have grant writing. So if you ask yourself in this moment, what are the roles that are actually available for anyone that wants to delve into this niche of international relations? 1, we have program coordination or project manager. For international development, there's always a top project manager, that is somebody that oversees everything and everyone that is going on in the project. Then we have a project assistant. This person is also skilled with project management. Then we have the communication specialist, just like the skill mentioned. there is always need for a communication specialist, someone that will be able to communicate the impact to the general public and to the donors. And finally, there is a field officer, because sometimes not the whole team in the international development sector will be able to go to the field or to the community to carry out these duties. So most of the time, they assign a field officer in the region to be able to carry out these duties. So when the field officer is there in the region, he monitors everything going on and reports back to the organization. So that is how it is done. So the advice now for anybody that wants to delve into the niche of international development is, first off, building a portfolio as a student you might find it difficult, but this is one thing you can do. You can start doing projects early. You and your friends, you in your department, just say, we can do this project in this community. Or you can even start from your school environment. Let's do this project in our school and let's see how far we can go. Then you start learning your skills on time. Remember, the aim is to start narrow and go broad. We all want to become diplomats, but for us to be recognized, we need to start the work earlier on. Most of the time, people that are recognized have actually started the work, not those that have not started anything. For you to add value to your degree, or for you to add value to whatever you have currently, you need to start doing the work. So you can organize projects in your institutions, your department, your faculty, or your community, and you can start using the skills you build in project management or whatever skill you choose to build. Then you can start from there. Now, that's for international developments. Second skill, for those joining us here, please just listen in. We can go back later when we have questions. Thank you. So for the second skill the second niche we'll be exploring today is policy and governance. Policy and governance is a whole niche on its own in international relations, because you notice when you're in school as an international relations student or as a graduate of international relations, when you're in school, you're doing a lot of things. Some topics or some courses you do, we talk about war. Some will talk about policy. Some will talk about education. Some will talk about economics. And you're confused at the end of the day when you come out and you're like, I can't do everything at once. But at the same time, you ask yourself, then what can I do? So policy and governance is the number 2 niche we'll be talking about in today's session. Now, what do these people do? When you hear the word policy and governance, the first thing that comes into your mind is, okay, she wants to become a president, or he wants to become a minister or a governor. That is the end result. What we are here to do majorly is to guide you on how to start. Now, for policy and governance, these are people that actually work behind the scene. They work behind the scene to ensure that the rules, the laws, and the policies that are enacted by the government of a particular country are in favor of the people. So if you're that person that is naturally curious and wants to improve the life of people, though not you going to the communities to give aid, but through the policies and the rules that are formulated by the government, policy and governance is for you. These people focus on studying the problems of the community. After studying the problems of the community, they make analysis based on the problems they have studied. And finally, they're able to make recommendations to whoever is in power or whoever is in seat. Okay, this is the problem of the community. This is what I think you should do. For instance, let's use taxation as an example. Okay, there are heavy taxes on the people, and the people, they have a lot of low income earners in the community. Then somebody that is into policy and governance might not be the president, might not be the governor, but we will study the environment, study the community, and see that these people are going through a lot. They are suffering from low income and they are still suffering from paying huge taxes. So this person will advise the governor or the president or whatever organization is connected to those in power and tell them, this is what I've studied. This is what I've studied. This is the data I got, but this is my honest recommendation. And you can do this via policy papers and other things like that. This is the work of those that are into policy and governance. Yeah. So if we ask ourselves, okay, naturally, what natural attribute of mine do I embody that makes me fit into this particular niche? First off, if you're that kind of person that like working behind the scene, you like working behind the scene because the rules or the laws that are governing the society actually based on your findings. So if you're that kind of person that loves working behind the scene, this niche is for you. If you're also that kind of person that love changing complex data into very good recommendations, this niche is also for you, because you see the problem of the society, they are very large. You cannot deal with everything at once. So what do you have to do? You have to look at the needs of the society, then think about it. What can we do? Where is the problem? What solution can we prefer? And how can we enact this into the policies of the country or the society to make the people live a better life? If you are this kind of person, this niche is for you. If you are also a kind of person that loves laws and regulations, this niche is also for you, because at some point you might not be a lawyer or a law student, but you would have to understand the laws of the country and the policies of the country to be able to give recommendations for things like this. Now, moving forward, what are the skills that are necessary to excel in policy and governance? For policy and governance, we don't have much skills, but one of the most important skill to think about is research skill. And when I mean research skill, I don't mean just you writing your assignments or just the work you do in school. Research is way broader than that. We're talking about qualitative research. We're talking about quantitative research. You know how to explore them. You know how to present them in a way that those that need this recommendation will buy your idea immediately. You need to understand research. Two, you need to be able to think critically. Critical thinking is actually a skill. Not everybody knows how to think critically. So critical thinking is a skill that is necessary for those doing policy and governance, because you to analyze significant problems that will influence the policy of the country, you need to think critically. Think of all the odds, think of all the good things that can happen, then you rate the two sides and know the best recommendation to give to the government. So we talk about critical thinking, we talk about research writing. Then the third part we talk about is policy analysis. You need to understand the policy of your nation, the policy of your country, and understand how to analyze them in the best way. So if you're starting on this career path, what career roles do I think is the best for you? One, the career role that I think is the best for you is for you to be a research assistant. Most of the time, you cannot go into the office of the president immediately or the office of the minister. But one thing you can go into is office of think tanks that are related to these officials. There are always think tanks that help these officials in their policy analysis. So first off, you can start in the role of a research assistant. So as a student or a young graduate, you can start building your research skill now, not just the research you do in school or the assignments you do in school. Start building your research skill. Invest heavily on qualitative and quantitative research that has to do with numbers and other type of research like interviews, case study, and so on. These are things you can focus on. So another skill you can build for policy and governance is also communication skill. And like I said, in international development, policy and communication skill is not only about talking. Communication skill is not only about talking. You need to understand how to communicate your impact. Yes, this is what the people are suffering. Yes, this is the solution I think we can profile. And these are the things I think we can enact into these policies. So to be able to communicate clearly, you also need to know how to write articles, just like it is in international development. So if you notice, these skills are actually transferable, and this will help you to be able to select the different niche you can work in. That's for international development. Please, if you're following, kindly give me a thumbs up if you're following. Thank you. So we'll be going to the next niche quickly. So today we're going to be exploring 4 niches so we can take questions and answers. So tomorrow we'll explore the 4 niches that we have left because I divided it into 8 niches. So the next niche we'll be exploring is humanitarian action. Humanitarian action is a whole niche on its own. What do they do? So if you're into humanitarian action, those in humanitarian action, they actually focus on helping people that are affected by different emergency situations. And when we're talking about emergency situations, we're talking about situations like conflicts. We're talking about situations like natural disaster. We're talking about displacement, insecurity, and other emergencies. Now, for you to be able to work in humanitarian action, there are attributes that you can embody naturally without you even knowing. One, you need to be calm. You need to be calm in crisis or pressure situation because most of the time these people are actually in war zones giving aid to those that have been affected, either first aid, giving them food, or giving them any help they need at that point in time. You need to be calm in conflict situation. If you're that kind of person that have empathy for people, you feel you feel the pain of people and you can actually relate with it, not because you've experienced it, but because you are human. That's what humanitarian action is for. So if you embody these traits, humanitarian action is for you. Most of the time, those that are in humanitarian action actually go to this environment after doing needs assessments. They make sure to carry everything they will need. For instance, when Israel and Gaza were fighting, humanitarian action, UNHR, were sent to Gaza to help the children over there. So when they were sent to Gaza, they were giving them different things. Aside first aid, there were provision of food for children because at that point in time, there is crisis. Everywhere is in disarray and they need to look for a way to make these people survive. Aside giving them first aid, there's provision of food, there's provision of shelter, maybe tents and stuffs like that. So that people that are actually in this field need to be calm in every situation. Are we talking about displacement? A lot of individuals are actually displaced from their environment or from the place they live due to security situations. Some are displaced due to natural disaster and they tend to just move around, or you see them sometimes, they call them asylum seekers. So who are the people that attend to these humans in need? This is the work of anybody that's interested in humanitarian action. And yes, I know empathy is like a key skill you need in this field, but there are also skills that you need to develop, certifications you need to get to be able to understand what they really do in the field. First off, one of the skills you need to look at is crisis management. Crisis management is very important because those that do humanitarian action are always there when the crisis is happening, not just after the crisis. They are there when the crisis is happening, and situations can change. Situations can change. All of a sudden, there is peace, there is tranquility. They are treating the injured soldiers, they are treating the injured children, and they're looking for how to make things better. You don't know the next plan of the opponent. They can be a bomb blast, and immediately they need to spring into action. They need to go get people that have been injured by the new bomb blast and see how to manage the situation well. So you need to understand crisis management. Another thing you need to understand is humanitarian reporting. Other fields have the way they report, but humanitarian reporting is kind of different because you're dealing with crisis situation. And to report well in crisis situation, you're not just reporting numbers. You're reporting the situation that is going on around. You're reporting the fact that there is a bomb blast. You're reporting the fact that these are the number of people that have been rescued so far. These are the number of people that have been attended to. This is what we need because this humanitarian people that do humanitarian action actually have like a tent or a corner where they stay and deliver their services. So it is very important for you to know how to report situations during crisis. So first we said crisis management. Two, we said we said humanitarian reporting. So another skill that is important here is logistics. Logistics skill is very important for humanitarian action. And when we're talking about logistics, we can say most of the time there are always goods delivered to this crisis where crises are happening. Goods are always delivered to assist them, and these goods are called reliefs, to relieve the people of their sorrows, to relieve them of their stress. So goods are always delivered to them. So they need somebody that is very skilled with logistics to be able to take count or take numbers of everything that is there. Okay, we have so packs of food or so packs of rice delivered. We have so packs of injections for first aid. We have so packs of serum. We have, these are the things that logistics do. So logistics is actually a very important skill. You take account of inventory, you take account of everything that is being supplied to that location at that point in time. So this is what humanitarian action is for. And to tell you how important humanitarian action is, you should know that war can never be eradicated from the world. There will always be war. When one country is finishing, you'll be like, okay, they are done. Another country is starting. And when there is war, there are always casualties. And when there's casualties, humanitarian action must be in place. Even the Erasmus Mundus Master Scholarship has a scholarship for humanitarian action alone. So this is a very important niche in international relations. So sometimes understanding this niche will actually help you understand the agency of the UN you can target first before thinking of the UN in general. The UN is actually very broad. So if you're talking about humanitarian action now and you want to start planning your career or picking a niche, you can say, okay, I'm going to start with the little crises that are going on in my locality or in my community. Then the UN agency that should be targeted in this situation is UNHR. And sometimes the World Health Organization is also present. So even if you're an international relations student, you can also take certifications on public health to give you an edge over others when you're doing your applications for jobs that are related to this field. So this is what humanitarian action is all about. So if you're thinking about what career roles are actually in this field, one, you can talk about program officer, because just like I said, most of the job of an international relations graduate or international relations student are called projects. There is no finance department, and or there might be a finance department, but that will be like in the head office. But for those that go on the field to work, this job you do are called projects. So definitely a project manager is important here also, to be able to see everything that is going on in that station. Also, the refugee support officer is important, because most of the time when there is crisis, there are always refugees going from affected areas to another area in order to seek safety. So there's somebody that should be there to take count of how many refugees do we have? How can these refugees be catered for? Do we have enough resources to cater for these refugees? Then the logistics manager is also very important. The role of this logistics manager is to take inventory, count of everything that has been supplied either by the UN or other supporting agencies that is giving them this funding to do this job. So these are the roles one can explore, and you can start from there. Yeah, most of the time, these roles always have assistants, because when they go on the field, they need enough hands to be able to work and provide the kind of aid they need. So there are always assistant roles. So sometimes when we start our career, we can start looking at the assistant role first. At least from the assistant role, you have a general overview of what the real role is all about. Then you can transition into the main role. And from there, you can start building your career in a particular niche. Then, so far so good. If you've been enjoying the class, please give me a thumbs up. And if you have questions, you can also drop it in the chat box. Yeah. So thank you, thank you. So we'll be going to the next niche in order not to waste our time. The next niche we'll be talking about today is peace building and conflict resolution. Now, when you hear peace building and conflict resolution, you might ask yourself, is it not the same thing as humanitarian action? What's the difference between this niche actually? Because you feel they are the same thing. Now, here is the difference. Humanitarian action takes place while the conflict is still on. So sometimes the conflict might end, but they don't stay long after the end of the conflict. They just look for how to settle everyone to make them feel better, then they go. But you see, peace building and conflict resolution, they come after the conflict. They come after the conflict. Sometimes they come before the conflict escalates into war, when it's still on a very shallow level, before it escalates into war. Those that are in peace building and conflict resolution are always there. Most of the time, those in this niche work on stabilization of communities after the conflict. So the conflict end does not just end, recovery of communities does not just end when war end. There is also a great aftermath that kind of stay with the community. The trauma of the war, when you hear sounds of anything you feel is gunshot or you feel is bomb, so people are scared because they don't know what's the next line of action. They feel like the conflict is still on. This is the work of those that are in peace building and conflict resolution. So if you're that kind of person, that's most, for example, let's bring it for a personal level now. If you're that kind of person that when two of your friends are arguing, you tend to jump in before it escalates into an hand fist, then peace and conflict resolution is for you. They do it in two ways. The first way is before the conflict escalates into war. That is when it's very shallow and they're just doing maybe the banter level, when they're just talking and like, I'll go to war with you, I'll go to war with you, but they've not actually gone to war. Peace building and conflict resolution can come in here. Then the second part is after the war. After the war, the recovery process in the community, they focus on it also. And most of the time, this is done through stabilization. And when I'm talking about stabilization, I'm talking about stuff like peace and social cohesion. When I say social cohesion, let me give an example. For instance, there was a conflict between two communities in Togo. For instance, there was a conflict between two communities, and after the conflict, these two communities tend to be hostile towards each other. Let's say there's a boundary, there's already a law, you must not cross this boundary, if not I'll go to war with you. Then the other person says the same thing. Now for somebody that is into peace building and conflict resolution, the person can pick social cohesion as one of the methods to be able to solve this issue. And let's say for social cohesion, let's say the person picks sports for development, and the person just targets the children from the two communities. Most of the time children don't bear the grudges of their parents, so there's a football match between community A and community B. Some children will literally don't they would not tell their parents before going for this football match. So the two communities meet in a particular field and they play this football, and everybody's happy and they forget the grudges. Now, just the children are forgotten the grudges, right? Now they will carry the news, oh, telling their parents, we played football with so community this day. And the parents will be like, why would you do that? You are not supposed to go to that community. But when the children, children can actually express themselves without leaving anything out. So when they go to these communities, they talk to their parents about it. It was fun, the children were nice and stuff like that. Then when the children, they see that, okay, the children are doing good with these social cohesions and they're coming back together, they will target the adult next. Why not organize a sport event between the adults of these communities? Maybe the adults are good with football, volleyball, or any sport they are good at. Invite them, let them play football together, and let's see. That way, brick by brick, you can build the relationship between these two communities back. It will take time for sure, but this is actually the work of peace building and conflict resolution. They come at the beginning of a conflict when it has not escalated into war, and they come after the conflict to provide stabilization. So what are like the natural attributes you embody that make you feel like, okay, I can do this, I like this niche and all that? One, you need to be a good listener. because you're dealing with two or more parties here that are very angry and want to tear each other apart. You need to be a good listener. You need to be able to listen to part A and part B and see how to stand a common ground. Because if you don't listen to them properly, you might be judgmental and like, you are wrong, you are right. In settling conflict, you don't do things like that. You tend to look for a common ground, a middle ground for both parties to agree, not to escalate it further. Now, another thing you should be able to do is to be a problem solver. Conflict is always a problem. I don't think there is a good conflict. Most conflicts are always bad. And the best thing to do is to stop it from escalating into war, because war have a way of not just affecting the region it started, or oh, sorry, let me change the slide. War always have a way of not only affecting the region it started, but also going beyond that. So yeah, these are the natural attributes you can embody. So finally, asking yourself, what are the skills that are necessary for me to become a peace builder or somebody that is a conflict resolution specialist? What are the skills I need to build in this area? One, you need to understand facilitation and meditation skills. All the conflict resolution skills are key. And conflict resolution is like a course on its own. So if you really want to go into this field, you need to take the certification in conflict resolution, understand the different skills you can use to bring people back together. We have negotiation, we have arbitration, we have mediation. You need to understand these skills properly in order to resolve conflict between individuals, between communities, and between countries. You need to have a good research skill, because you cannot just base your judgment on what these people are telling you. How are you sure they are saying the truth? How are you sure they are not lying? So proper research needs to be done. What was the starting point of this conflict? How did it get to this stage? And why? How should it not escalate more than this? You need to be good with research. As I said in the last niche, qualitative and quantitative research is necessary. Don't just judge your idea on one aspect or on just one part of research. You need to balance both. Another skill that is necessary in this part is monitoring and evaluation. I know the last time we edited was in international development, but monitoring the situation, if because somebody that is into peace building and conflict resolution would not know when to draw back from the community. So to know when to draw back from the community, to be sure, okay, they are stable now, or okay, peace has been restored to this community, you need to monitor the situation properly. And like the example I gave of social cohesion, you need to be able to evaluate how many people attended the social cohesion program, how many people were friendly with each other from the two different communities and were not hostile to each other any longer. These are things you can put in place. And finally, another skill you should embody is proactiveness. It might sound like, okay, this is just an attribute, but these are things people actually learn. If you want to be in peace building, most of the skills are like inbuilt, but these people actually train themselves to be able to resolve this conflict. If you're proactive, you would know when one party is becoming more violent, and you know how you can resolve it or when you need to solve it. So these are skills you should learn. Then if you're looking at the career roles that are actually available in this niche, we need a conflict analyst. Most of the time, conflict analysts are not always on the field. Sometimes they just do the research and analyze the conflict, the peace builder that is going to the community, and say, okay, A started this on this date, B did this on this date to retaliate. If we're not careful, this is what will be the end result, or this is what has happened. Now go to the community and do this. This is the role of a conflict analyst. It analyzes all the situation, the causes, and everyone not of that conflict. They analyze everything and see how to profile a good solution for stabilization or to reduce escalation. Another role is early warning officer. This early warning officer, the role is majorly for somebody that is trying to prevent a particular war from escalating. For instance, you have two parties, they are still in a battle of words, like abusive words, giving each other insults, and threatening each other with words. Early warning officer is the person that will keep tab and say, these people are still in the early stage of the conflict, and send a early warning signal to the peace and conflict institution that we need to stop these people before the conflict will escalate. So this kind of person needs to always stay informed. You need to always be informed about what is going on in the community you are stationed in or around the world, to be able to give early warnings. Then another part is the role of a research assistant. Just like I said, research is very important here. And most of the time, there is always role for an assistant before you translate into the other stage. There is always role for an assistant. Now, if you're looking at it, what kind of organization need to do this, or which kind of organization do this job? A lot of UN agencies are into peace building and stabilization. UNDP do this job. So knowing your career niche will help you to understand the kind of UN agency you need to target or to focus on. So now you need to do realistic projects to be able to build a portfolio. And when you're building a portfolio, one thing I love to do, or one thing I to making great impact, but there is no track record. You have no picture of what you're doing. You have no video of what you're doing. And even some of us that have this picture or have these videos, it stays in our gallery. And when we look at it in our gallery, we're like, oh my God, I did this. I'm so proud of myself. But the institution you want to work for is out there. The institution is not in your gallery. So you need to learn how to put your work or out there, because it speaks for you. It speaks for you a lot more than the words of your mouth. At least there is proof and there is evidence that you're doing this work. So these are the 4 niches we're going to be exploring today. And today we'll continue. Tomorrow we'll continue the other niches. So today we explored international development. Secondly, we explored policy and governance. Thirdly, we explored humanitarian action. Then finally, we explored peace building and conflict resolution. So at the end of the day, the field of international relations presents numerous opportunities across governments, international organizations, NGO, research institutes, and the private sector. Now, success in this field requires a combination of academic knowledge and practical experience, strong communication skill, and a commitment to understanding global issues. Yeah, this is all for our today's class. And for the first slide, I know this is where all of us want to be in. But to be here, we need to start building early. And to build, you need to start from your locality. You need to start narrow. Because once we enter this room, we don't want to come out anymore. That is why we need to start building from our communities before we build for the global stage. Yeah, and I think that's all for today's session. Now we'll take questions or anybody that have anything to say. Thank you. Questions, anyone, please? Or should I check through the chat? If you want to speak, you can unmute. But if you want it on the chat, I can go through the chat and see your questions. Hmm. Okay, there's a question on the chat saying, in research, how can I link psychology to international relations? If I'm not mistaken, psychology has to do with the mind and how the brain works. So to link it, because somebody that is doing psychology might also have interest in development, might also have interest in governance and policy. But what will speak for you, or what will make this kind of person stand out, is the kind of work you do. Now, when you research, you don't only research about things of the mind or things that are psychologically related. You can make research on things that are in that niche you are picking. For instance, you're picking international development. You can talk about the communities and the psychology they face, things like that, like psychology, like just link it up. But what I would advise you to do is, first off, build a portfolio. And when I'm talking about build a portfolio, build a practical portfolio. For instance, you're somebody that wants to work in the international development sector. You can, as a psychology student or a psychology graduate, you can start doing little projects in your locality. And this little project can include outreach, sustainable development outreach in schools, talking about the quality of education, gender equality, asset, things like that. You can do and you can do another one in your environment or in your community, maybe one else where you pack dirty and make sure the environment is clean. These are practical projects you can actually do in this situation, even if you're a psychology student. And you also keep tabs of news and everything that is going on around the world. Stay informed. Okay, for those that joined late, yeah, they'll be recording for the class. It will be sent to the group. Yeah, please, is there anyone that would love to talk before we end the session? I think it can be relatable as the prince. Please, Fawa, I don't know if you would like to talk. I don't really get you, but if you can explain it, we would love to listen. Thank you. Thank you too. Okay, some people are still typing. The recording will be shared on WhatsApp and we'll have a session tomorrow. Please, is there anybody that still have any other thing to say? And if you enjoyed the session, please, can you send a thumbs up, please? So somebody said, how can I prepare for a career in policy and governance? So to prepare for a career in policy and governance, just one thing I said is start narrow. First off, you can start by volunteering. Look for how you volunteer for institutions that are close by, not the ones that are far. Now, AI have made things quite easy for us, where you can search for institutions that are within your locality. You can search for institutions that are within your locality and work with them. But to be more realistic, you can start from your institution. I don't know if you're in, for instance, in the Nigerian institution, we have what they have called SUG, that's Student Union. And I know in other institutions, they have the names they call them. So this Student Union are places where you can take political positions and actually start the work. In this position, you get the opportunity to write policy briefs and you get the opportunity to talk, to govern or to lead strategically. So if you want to start a career in policy and governance, first thing I will advise is start from any institution that is closest to you. It doesn't need to be internationally recognized, but related to policy, join them, contribute to their policy brief. Their policy brief is always very important because at the end of the day, these policy briefs are being published out and it's the idea of people straight from their brain of what they think. And before you can write a policy brief, you would have done enough research. So start with the closest institution near to you, be it an NGO, be it an institution in your school, and maybe you're even the one that will form it. You're the one that will establish that group in your school. It's still fine as far as you're able to publish papers or you're able to talk about things that are really affecting people in the communities. Publish it out, let people see your work. Then when you're publishing, publish it. When you publish on different websites, put it on your social media handles, let people read. And at least when you're going into the real think tanks that work with the real government, you can show your works. This is what I've done. These are the policy briefs I've made, and this is how it can help your work. Yeah, I think that's the most realistic way to start a career there. Please, is there any other question? Okay, if we don't have any other question for today, I think we're going to meet tomorrow for the next session. And for those who attend tomorrow's session, there is something at the end of the session, something that will be very important for you. That will be a step-by-step guide on how to build a career. The document includes a realistic project you can carry out in your community, how to register as a United Nations volunteer, and a lot more is in this document, and certifications you can take for the different niche that you are going to go into. Everything is in this document, and it's called the International Relations Career Roadmap. It is a practical guide to global careers, organization, the skills and opportunities. Everything we discuss in this class and more is there. We have a 30 days, 60 days to 90 days career plan. There are free courses and certifications and the sites you can take them. How to be a United Nations volunteer, and how people can actually enter United Nations, enter international organizations. Everything and more is in this roadmap that will be shared tomorrow. And it's not going for an expensive price. It's going for just $3, but it will be on seller for $10 by weekend. But for those in this class, it will be going for $3, and it will be shared tomorrow for those that are interested. So come tomorrow with open minds as we explore the remaining niches that are available in international relations, and you can start building your career as early as you can. If you are a student, you can start building your career while you are in school. You don't need to wait until you back the degree, because if you back the degree and there is nothing backing it up, no credibility of any sort, that's when we find it difficult and we feel like school or education is scam, which it isn't. We just need to know how to use it properly to our own advantage. So yeah, sorry, just a minute. Okay, this is this is just a snippet of what the International Relations Career Roadmap looks like. It has a lot of information, how to become a United Nations volunteer, step by step on how to do your registration on the UN volunteer site. And the link to the UN volunteer site is also available. Then we also have certifications that you can do for the different niche you want to venture into. Yeah, don't sleep on it because it is very cheap for this class for $3, and it's going on seller for $10 by weekend. So thank you so much for all those that joined this session. It was indeed an insightful one. So we'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. Thank you so much. See you in our next class. Thank you.